I'm very happy to be here, and thanks to Manisha Kulkarni. Yeah, I have lectured in this institute once before, but not to this institute audience, but to Wipro people. And number theorists are known for their sufficiently general sounding title which gives no clue to what they speak about. So when Balu was asked about the title, he said prime numbers, and that was very much like what number theorists give. So this Srinivasa Ramanujan and Fermat's Last theorem is also the thing, but yeah, there are two things which I would like to say, and then once the computer is up, perhaps we'll reboot. Yes. Yeah, I'll show you. Yeah, before that, maybe one or two general remarks may be in order, especially in connection with what Professor Balasubramanian was telling yesterday. So I can't resist the temptation of saying that story again, because he talked about twin primes and also in the beginning mentioned that Zank results and all these things may not have any implications to computer science per se. But directly they may not have, but they have indirect thing. And there has been one very important correction which they have made to the computer science world, and I suppose the story might be known. So in 1994, when Intel issued the first Pentium chip, it contained certain errors in its division algorithm. And the person who found that error was a number theorist, Thomas Nice, who was working on the twin prime conjecture. So what he was doing was that he used to find twin primes, and just to add to what Professor Balasubramanian was telling yesterday, Euler gave a proof of the infinitude of prime numbers by showing that the series of reciprocals of primes diverges. So when twin primes, people thought maybe one could prove their infinitude by showing that the reciprocals of twin primes diverge. But to make things very tantalizing, it converges. So the series of reciprocals of twin prime converges, so you cannot conclude either infinity or finiteness. So you have to still work, it doesn't. And the point is, there are mathematicians who try to find the limit and all that, and this Thomas Nice is one such person. So whenever a new pair of twin primes is found, he plugs it into the series, computes the sum. So he was doing it on his computers for a long time, and when 94, when Intel issued the Pentium chip, he bought one machine to his lab and connected it and started performing calculations. So he still started getting errors in his computations. And then when you get errors in computations, it's not easy to trace. So he systematically went about all first level typographical errors, software problems, everything, and finally, as Sherlock Holmes would said, when everything else fails, what remains, however improbable, must be the truth. He thought that error must come from the Intel chip, and he was right. And he wrote to Intel saying that your Intel chip, the Pentium chip, does not do the division correctly, and gave the example of a pair of numbers where the division was not being done properly. And Intel, like any big company getting one complaint, ignored it. But luckily there was email, and he sent this, after waiting for some time, he sent this one example to his friends. And soon when people received this example, they were able to duplicate that example. They found many. He had found one or two. And soon there were a huge number of examples of Intel Pentium chip doing the division wrongly. And then Intel accepted the error, withdrew the chip, and reissued the chip with corrected division algorithm. So if Thomas Nice had not been working on the twin prime and using Pentium chip, I don't know how else it could have been discovered actually. So after all, if such an error is there, without our knowledge, what havoc it can cause. So that's actually one of the justifications for huge computations which are done. Like for example, billion values, decimal places of pi, and things like that. These are all, just to make sure that things which we are working on do work properly. So I thought I would just mention that. And the title of my talk is, of course, Fermat's Last theorem and Srinivasa Ramanujan. And I never thought I would get such a beautiful setting for that, so that I can open it in a dramatic way. So after all, we do know that the Fermat's last theorem, by Fermat's last theorem, you cannot have solutions in integers for a cube plus b cube equals c cube. This is one of the earliest known cases. But it's okay if a sum of cubes cannot be a cube, but how close to a cube it can be, you can ask. So it's not exactly equal to a cube, but is it cube plus 1 or minus 1 or some such one? So of course the famous Ramanujan story that if you, the taxi cab number 1729, which again figured yesterday because of that Carmichael number connection, that shows that 1729/28, which is a cube, 12 cube, is actually equal to sum of two cubes minus 1. So it's very close. And of course, being Ramanujan, he gave an infinite set of examples for this thing. He gave an infinite series of examples. So I thought I would also show off some thing which I had made and also its facility. So it's in page 341 of his papers, unpublished manuscript. So there you go. So he said if that 1 plus 53x plus 9x squared divided by 1 minus 82x minus 82x squared plus x cube, if you expand it in terms of powers of x or powers of 1 by x, and then he gives 3 polynomials where the denominators are 3 rational functions where the denominators are the same. Okay, the numerators are quadratic equations with carefully chosen coefficients. If those happen, if the a_n's, b_n's and c_n's are those coefficients, then he writes a_n cube plus b_n cube is equal to c_n cube plus minus 1 to the power n. And for the recipe, when you expand them in powers of x, they are again satisfy a similar thing. Alpha n cube plus beta n cube is equal to gamma n cube plus 1 to the power n. And Ramanujan has listed a few numbers. This is an entry on page 341 of his notebook. And the beauty is, and there is a very beautiful simple proof of that, and the margins are good enough to hold them. So the margins in these two boards, I can actually give the proof of simple fact. That was the dramatic setting I was mentioning, that I never imagined the boards would act as margins for this TV screen. So this is one of those beautiful identities of Ramanujan, and I was digging into it. I got interested in it. I just looked at it, and a lot of people, Hirschhorn for example, who visited MRI, seems to have done a lot of. He has written 3 or 4 papers, and he has a very beautiful matrix formulation. So it's a good thing to find how Ramanujan may have actually thought of this identity. So do that, and and a small this thing to this collection and the thing. Actually, I am these days also involved in putting our legacy, history, science, literature and all on the internet and making it accessible. Because if we don't preserve our works and if we don't make them accessible for study, nobody else in the world will. So we have to, and it's an unfortunate thing that Srinivasa Ramanujan paper is still not on the web. So I actually made this, and I was hoping that December 2012 I will put this on the web. But then I checked that Narosa has some right over it. I talked to them. They are not completely against it, but they are willing. So hopefully soon it will find a place on the Mat Science web page. So you will be able to see all published Ramanujan's works and his notebooks on the web. So you can glimpse it, etc. And of course it has this facility that those 4 published books are there, and any page number by which the people refer to it. If you see that, you can look up that page by typing in that number. Okay, that was what. Okay, so now on to that Ramanujan's identity. So this is the first part of what I wanted to talk about, the Ramanujan and the connection. Yeah, this is that paper which I had put there. Yeah, this is. Yeah, there was one Eric Lord in the Innes of Science who used to have written a book on general relativity. He's also an artist. And once he told me, we were colleagues in IISc and we were sharing the same office. So once he was going to England for holidays, and since he was an artist, I just told him, why don't you, Eric, why don't you look at how caps look like and make a drawing for this cartoon. So this is what he produced. So he went there, poured over the newspapers in 1910s and 1920s in England and to see how cap looked like. So before going to that identity proper, I found that there was a reference to an earlier similar identity. So the kind of things that were on the background. So it's not clear whether Ramanujan had looked at these things or not, possible or not possible. So there is a similar and very beautiful looking identity. So again involving 1 over a cubic polynomial, reciprocal of a cubic polynomial. So if un denotes the nth coefficient in the expansion of this 1 over 1 minus 3x minus 3x squared minus x cube, and Vn in the corresponding thing, and observe that these polynomial 1 over x f of with a negative. And if x denotes un plus 1, y denotes un plus 1, then z Vn and t Vn plus Vn plus 1. Then the beautiful thing is that 2 times x cube plus z cube is equal to y cube plus t cube. Very beautiful. And the solution of this is not very difficult. It's even accessible to high school students. So instead of writing those things, so this is done by, so I will first give a proof of this in detail and then talk about the Ramanujan thing. Yeah. So it's a cubic polynomial and you take the roots to be. Yeah, so what Chantry did was, he said if you, right, observe that this is that minus 1 over fx and that minus sign will be on the other side, but you can interchangeably. Then he said we have the following identity where this PQ, RS are the HPQ are the coefficients of the cubic polynomial. Get from there. So maybe I can write that there. Fx is equal to Hx Hx cube plus Px squared plus Qx plus R. So those are the figure. And then you have this nice identity R by H to the power 2n plus un plus 1 whole cube, f of un by un plus 1 plus that is equal to 0. So assume this identity for the moment. This is easy to prove. Then apply it to this polynomial x plus 1 whole cube minus 2. Then out pops your result. So that's not very difficult to observe. So just for example, R and H now going to be 1, so that is not a problem. Then f of un by un plus 1, if you substitute there x as un by un plus 1, then you get this un plus 1, and you clear the denominator. Okay, x plus 1 whole cube minus 2. And actually you can get more instead of not only equations of the type x cube plus 2 times, this is what he had got, the original problem. You can actually get to some integers k times x cube plus y cube is equal to w cube plus z cube. So it's a very nice looking problem and simple thing, accessible to just rational, partial fractions and things of that kind. The proof is written out there. So suppose ABC are the roots of that cubic equation, then we have 1 over fx in that fashion, and you write it in terms of partial fractions. And then b minus c by x minus a, you expand it as power series in x, and then you get. And if we do that, we get this un is equal to that what un. And similarly, 1 over x cube into f of 1 by x. I mean, the other polynomial I showed was that it was a reciprocal polynomial. So you can take out x, substitute 1 over x instead of x, and then take out an x cube. You have the same thing, and you carry out the same kind of partial function expansions, etc. Then it turns out that Vn is in this form. So then he observes that un minus aun plus 1, that you can get it in terms of, and Vn plus 1 minus avn will be, and then if you simplify you will get this. I mean, this is part of an article which appeared in Resonance a few months ago. I can take a look at it. So from here the identity is easily written down. So similarly you have for other things. Now you multiply those three equations, and because a, b, c are the roots of that polynomial, you get un plus, because this so this is the un plus 1 cube, and a, b, c are the roots. Therefore you get un plus 1 whole cube, f of un by un plus 1 is equal to that. And now noting that ABC is the constant term divided by the coefficient of cube, you get the proof of the identity. Okay. So this is the other thing. I mean, notes that by taking f of x is equal to x plus 1 whole cube minus k, you have this, you can get solutions to the kind of which you have. So you not only have for 2, but you have a whole class of equations. So it is possible that here C heard of problem of Amsler's, so that's why he also thought of, and then maybe he, since 1729 was the back of his mind, maybe he was able to arrange the things so that by multiplying by quadratic polynomials each of those rational functions, he was able to get that thing. So now you can use the same trick as this Amsler's problem to get this things. Yeah. Okay. So we will do that part, and these things easily work out. There's not much of a problem in this. Doing those things and going the same way, rational expansions and things like that. This thing is in the last trick. So these are all UNs. You get, this is the expression you get for UN. Alpha and beta along with 1 are the roots of that cubic polynomial below, are the roots of that. And you have, and now you can simplify and you can compute actually u0, u1, u2, etc. And it's fun computing those numbers and getting the same kind. Okay, so the story is not over. So now ANs, BNs, CNs can be expressed in terms of these UNs. So you only have one this thing. Okay, and this you can verify, satisfy that an cube plus bn cube is equal to. Now we have to prove it in general. So okay, now here is a jump step. I mean, this is something which you need some time to understand. See, UNs, we said, we have shown that actually are expressions, linear combinations of -1 alpha and beta, rather 1 alpha and beta. So the same thing holds true for ANs, BNs and CNs because they are linear combinations of UNs. Now you cube them. When you cube them, because that the ANs, BNs are expressed as that 3 terms in UN, etc., there will be combinations of the following 7 quantities, that is -1 cube, then alpha squared beta, alpha beta squared, beta, minus alpha squared and minus beta squared. Various combinations when you cube them. Now if you consider this series an plus 1 cube, an cube plus bn cube minus an cube minus of -1 to the power n hex n, it follows that this series is of the form nx by dx, where dx is a polynomial of degree 7 involving these quantities, 7 quantities. Okay. So and nx is a polynomial of degree less than or equal to 6, at most 6. So now the identity follows from a observation here. So you express it in this form, and now it is easy to observe that Q naught is equal to 0, then D naught is equal to 0, and things like that. I mean, Q naught is equal to 0, then D naught is equal to 0. If Q naught and Q1 are 0, then D naught and D1 will be 0, like that. And so if you verify for the first 6 coefficients here, then D naught, D1, D2 up to D6 are all zeros. Then that polynomial will be identically 0. That means this holds as an identity in the thing. So that is the proof. So what we need to show is that QNs are 0, because QNs are precisely those things. I mean, just QNs are precisely what we want: AN cube plus BN cube Cn cube minus of minus 1 to the power n. So you first by computationally observe that Q0, Q1, Q2, etc. up to Q6 are 0, and then conclude that it holds for all this thing. So this is the proof which is actually from Hirschhorn's. Hirschhorn has 2 or 3 different kinds of proofs, and this is one. And another beautiful thing is Hirschhorn has also been able to get a matrix version of this. So he has been trying to see how Ramanujan may have stumbled on this identity, and this I think is a very beautiful observation. He says this AN, BN, CNs actually can be got by raising a matrix to the nth power. So I would suggest that you look at papers by Hirschhorn to do that, and once in this form, it's actually also easy to prove that AN cube plus BN cube is equal to Cn cube plus minus 1 to the power n. Okay, and then there are lots of things which is here, and been trying to see if something could be done for the other thing. See, the point is, okay. Yeah, if you let's go back to this again, and I have a few general things to say, because I have been teaching for a long time, so I need a few observations. And when I wrote this article in Resonance, I could have actually just written this thing and stated the theorem, but I preferred to pick out that paper from Ramanujan's thing and reproduce it there for 2 reasons. One was to give the original flavor of Ramanujan's handwriting, and another important thing was to show that there is also a relation when you write it in terms of powers of 1 over x. So what I was hoping was that some of the readers will see that and say, you have taken care of one, you have not taken care of the other. And so I thought I would reply to that and write another article, but unfortunately no reader has ever done that. So which means there is something to be said about our student population, that they are not curious, they are not looking up things of this kind. So on that topic I want to make another observation, this time a happier one. See, even the 1729, so everybody knows the story of Ramanujan. That story of Ramanujan is printed in books and everybody knows. But actually the story as it is told, they have left off a small chunk in that story. The original story, after Ramanujan replies to him saying, no Hardy, no, it is the smallest number which can be of 2 cubes in 2 different ways, Hardy makes an important remark. Usually the story stops there, but the original story doesn't stop there. Hardy, after a pause, says, okay, what is such a number for 4th powers? To which Ramanujan, after some thinking, says, I can't give you the exact number, but it is very big. I think it's available on the internet, you can look up, it has some 20-22 digits each for the 4th powers. Now the point of this story is that whenever I address high school students, a lot of them I do, and here also I see lots of students and well interested people, so for them there is a problem. Okay, that was Hardy and Ramanujan. Ramanujan made a comment, then Hardy, while pausing to think, may have actually observed that it is 1729 is this, and must have convinced himself that this is the smallest number, and he went and asked for the 4th powers. But students and ordinary mortals like us can not go that way, so we could ask other question. What is the smallest number which can be written as sum of two squares in two different ways? So I would suggest the PhD students to try finding it, because they can find it by the time the lecture gets over. Okay, it is not too big, so don't worry, it's not in thousands. So you can actually find that number which can be written as sum of two squares in two different ways. So usually I make this observation that we are not curious, we just hear the story and just repeat that story to others without trying to say, okay, can we do something with this? So this you will do, you will get a lot of mathematics doing that. And this observation is also in connection with an article which Bruce Burt had written in 1986 when he did a Ramanujan pilgrimage, and he was accompanied by Professor R. Balasubramanian to all places associated with Ramanujan. Bruce Burns ends his article with a, I would say, a spank for all of us. So he says, it was touching to see that Ramanujan was known even among the rickshaw pullers and tea stall owners in Kumbakonam and those places. Everybody had heard of Ramanujan. It was very touching to see. But next line is the parting kick. But alas, even among the intelligentsia, very few know of his work. That was a fairly telling comment. And the problem for us is that we hear the story and just neatly pass it on to others without trying to say what the story is supposed to do. And unless this one is, we don't have to appreciate Ramanujan now and say, oh, he's a great man. That is one part of this. But the other part is to focus your attention on that. What is the smallest number, for example? And they should find other numbers which can be written as sum of two cubes in two different ways, or try to find some numbers which can be written as sum of three cubes, etc. But hearteningly, in one group of students, when I actually told this story and asked for that thing, and I said, okay, what is the smallest number which can be written as sum of two squares in two different ways? Immediately one 9th standard guy stood up and gave me the answer. I was very happy with that, because that means that guy had done exactly what I had in mind. He had heard the story and he saw it for cubes and he said, okay, well, let me see what it is for squares. So it is, and students of course find it very quickly. In any class when I go and I give this sample, they do. So that was one part of the Ramanujan. And so actually I don't need this, so I might as well, if it closes, it closes. Okay, that is one part of the Ramanujan and the Fermat's last theorem thing which I mentioned, which is that, okay, this fails, but then you also have a set of beautiful identities if you look at how close you can get to the Fermat's last theorem statement. So another part I have is to actually do the real Fermat's last theorem in a more direct way. And I don't know, I am somewhat thinking that maybe this should receive more attention, because I was especially somewhat disappointed in that famous BBC series episode which you may have seen by Simon Singh and Fermat's last theorem. In the end, Barry Mazur is sitting there and recounting. He says, let me just say, this is not the work of one mathematician, and it is. And he lists a long list of mathematicians which led to the final Fermat's last theorem. But unfortunately, Ramanujan's name doesn't figure in that. And that's actually sad, because I think, but for Ramanujan's conjecture, that statement, I'm not sure when people would have actually found that connection between the ellipticus and modular forms. Okay, so let me try to tell you why I think so, because it's a very direct connection. See, the Ramanujan's conjectures which were mentioned yesterday, I think Ramakrishnan in his talk told about that tau p is now equal to 2p power 11 by 2. And he had mentioned two. One is the multiplicativity for the tau n function, and another is this. It's fine. So this was proved early by Mardell, and this had to wait. And this is the tantalizing one which really kept people working on that. And the first instance of the proof of this, of course this was later generalized to modular forms by Peterson. It's a more like a observation. If this is maybe in the general case, the weight and the order are related in that way. So a answer AP is less than or equal to 2p power k minus 1 by 2. And the tantalizing part is that maybe in today's thing or after introducing modular forms, yesterday Ramakrishnan defined it, and if you had gone ahead a little bit using little complex analysis, we can easily show that it's order of n to the a or order of n to the power k by 2. That's easy to show. But k minus 1 by 2, that is, this is order of tau n is order of n power 6, is easy to show. But Ramanujan said it is not 6 but 5.5. So that was the tantalizing thing. And there are many people who were analytically trying to proceed towards that. And let me just make a mention there. See, when Ramanujan sent this in a letter to Hardy in his paper in his curve, L.J. Mordell, Louis J. Mordell was a student of Hardy. So apparently Mordell was somewhat unhappy that Hardy, his thesis supervisor, was spending so much on this unknown Indian mathematician. So he said, okay, let's see what is the depth of that mathematician, looked at this and said, okay, if Ramanujan has made these true statements without proving them, let me prove that I am better than him by proving them. So very quickly he got this, but this of course he didn't get. So this he published, and in the hurry, because only he did that, he missed the whole question of Hecke apparatus, which Hecke did later to prove that identity. So this was tantalizing, and people generalized it to this. And one of the first examples which they observed was by Martin Eichler. What Eichler did was to observe that there was an elliptic curve whose zeta function actually was coming from is the Mellin transform of a modular form. It happened, cusp form. And there, using the elliptic curve thing, he showed that this property is true. So that was the first example, Martin Eichler. So he found a specific example of an elliptic curve whose L series was known to come from a cusp form. So and then that result for elliptic curves, the Dirichlet series associated with elliptic curve, to proving this result was simpler. That was what was done by Andre Weil. So Andre Weil then exploited completely and said for all elliptic curves the Dirichlet series has satisfies this. Then people thought maybe to prove the more general thing we should have a similar setup in algebraic geometry, and which is what led to those conjectures, Weil conjectures in the general case, and which was finally settled by Pierre Deligne. So I asked someone, I mean actually I asked a couple of mathematicians and among them Madhav Nori. So if Ramanujan hadn't made this observation, how long would it have taken for algebraic geometers to independently come to this conclusion, that symmetry in the zeta function, because that is not their main point of focus. Yeah, all of them were of the opinion that it would not have been very easy to come to that. Somebody who should have stumbled on it just like that. But because this conjecture was already there, that was the back of the mind. When people found this connection, they thought maybe the connection goes deeper. So I would actually think that that statement of Ramanujan was quite instrumental in establishing the relationship between the elliptic curves and modular forms, and which is why his name also should be. And it actually hastened the connection, this thing, and the final proof of the Fermat's last theorem. So that's my point about that. And yeah, I think I have 12, 10. Yeah, if there are any those things, I would be happy to talk. And I should mention a couple of personal incidents associated with, I mean not mine, but the personalities associated with that, because there are very beautiful ones and some of the stories are not generally known. Of course, there was a lot of trouble and rather the fight over calling it the Shimura-Taniyama conjecture. Some called it Weil conjecture, then Weil-Shimura-Taniyama. Then a lot of letters were written, mails were exchanged, and a huge uproar over that. But then now it is settled to Shimura-Taniyama conjecture. But as I said, maybe it's not an out of place thing to actually include Ramanujan's name, because this is the first instance of the connection between elliptic curve and a cusp form. Martin Eichler's thing. And Eichler and Shimura gave it for all complex multiplication elliptic curves. They proved that the associated thing is a cusp form. And then of course Deligne did it for the general thing. So I strongly believe that Ramanujan's played a very significant role in because it is that connection which ultimately proved very crucial in the proof of the Fermat's last theorem. Yeah. Thank you very much. And,